Shumai GTA fans, I'm going to be comparing the Growler to the S2. After all, they look exactly the same, so do they perform the same? I mean, looking at them, you've got those side vents on the Growler there in purple, but you don't have those on the S2 in green. But I like the back end of the S2. It does look nicer with that elongated light, which is quite a modern kind of look to the GT3. And also, yeah, I've put those vents on the wings there, which are also you can put on the Growler as well. The lights are a bit different on the Growler. They're more of a modern kind of Porsche 911 look to them. And the Growler is supposed to be based on the 718 Spider compared to the GT3 with the S2. So which one is best? Well, let's compare them on a racetrack because that's where we're going to find what is best. So I do like if you're enjoying this so far. One thing I got told was that the endurance wing improves the traction on the S2, which I don't really believe. So here we are, we're on the test track and we're going to compare it in a little mini kind of race time trial, as it were. And with the S2, I see no real benefit to having that wing on rather than the automatic wing, which looks, it's like that flippy wing, you know, that you don't even notice it flips up. But yeah, the lines aren't too bad, but there is a bit of understeer, so I'm having to take it quite wide and put the brakes on properly. If you don't brake it, you don't get the right racing line, so you don't nail that properly. But overall, it's looking pretty good. Pretty reliable there. One thing about the S2 is that it kind of the wheels can slip out from underneath you at times, so that didn't happen too much in my multitude of laps that I performed. And coming up to the end, we're on 56 seconds there, so that is pretty good actually. Up there on the test track table in the top end. And here's the Growler's efforts. Now the thing is, the Growler's cheaper by about 200 or 300,000 depending upon the discount. But I was finding the racing lines were a lot easier to get on the Growler because there's less of an understeer kind of issue on the Growler. In races, I've done a few races in both of these cars. I think they both tend to slip out. But yeah, I found the racing lines a lot easier on the Growler, and performance-wise, it's doing pretty good and probably better on the corners than the S2. But the straight line performance, I can't really assess on this, so we'll do a drag race in a minute to see. Okay, so it's really finding those lines a fair bit easier than the S2, and look at the time there, we're coming around really good. That is surprising. Christ on a bike. I see at 54 seconds. That's far better than the S2, so 54.9 on the Growler compared to 56.9 on the S2. One thing I should say about the setups on these, but I mean that is ridiculous. That's way too more than expected. But for the setups for both these cars, I've got competition suspension, and none of them are lowered stance, because lowered stance completely ruins your performance, completely wangs in loads of oversteer. So okay, here we are, LSIA. Both have competition suspension and default stance, and it's neck and neck as we're going down the straight. Dawn is just amongst us while we're doing the S2 run, but look at that, S2 just nudges it by 0.13 seconds, so a fraction of a second ahead of the Growler. So let's do the return trip with lowered stance and just get them all on a line, get them lined up. So there we are, nicely lowered. Down you go, boys and girls. So they're both lowered now. So let's do it. Let's go on the return trip and see how that does. Off the line, not too bad. Going off the line, I'm just putting my foot down so they both have the same. There's no special speed start going on there. And we are well ahead with the S2. We've finished there. And we are waiting for the Growler. About nearly 3 seconds difference between the S2 and the Growler. So the S2 is much faster in a straight line than the Growler with lowered stance. That's with competition suspension, the only one you want to go for. So with your upgrades, just put a competition on if you want to race it. If it's just aesthetic, it's up to you. So brilliant. In a straight line with lowered stance, the S2 is by far superior to the Growler. However, you would never use lowered stance in a race because it is terrible. The understeer is massive on both the Growler and the S2. You don't really get a benefit, and I think you should just have standard default stance and just go with the competition suspension. But on an actual race, so let's have a look at the test track. The Growler is far better by 2 seconds than the Comet S2, and in fact it's the best of the Los Santos Tuners cars. I tried to get the Sultan RS Classic close to it, but I couldn't, to be quite honest, so it just wasn't quite getting there. However, in racing, what I found was that on the street races, I think the Sultan RS Classic is still better than both the Growler and the S2, and that's because both the Growler and the S2 suffer from that problem where if you go over bumps, they can tend to spin out. So particularly if you go between grass and concrete, that's quite terrible and a bit of a risk for both cars. So performance-wise on the races, I think they're quite similar. Because for racing you're going to want to use default stance, so they're both of similar performance. However, I'd say that the Growler just about pips it in performance, just because I was better on the test track basically. In my experience in the races I didn't see a great deal of difference in my performance, but I'm not having a great time at racing at the moment. Need a bit more sleep basically, everyone. So price wise, the Growler is much cheaper, so you're looking at 1.6 million standard price and 1.2 million if you have the discount. But it's also a prize ride this week, so I'd recommend that you try and win the prize ride. That's assuming you don't have access to the KO Perico heist, because I'd say it's faster to do the KO Perico heist than the prize ride, because you need to win 8 point-to-point races against one friend. Even if you do it with a competing friend, you need to win 16, well, complete 16 races. So yeah, but overall, if you don't have access to KO, then just do the prize ride. It's well worth it. It's going to be a great little race car, but I think the RS is better, unfortunately, in races. Okay, so what about the price of the S2? You're looking at 1.87 million or 1.4 million discount. So it's a fair bit of difference, 200 odd thousand, and I don't think you get the value from it. However, if you're going to do drag racing as well, then definitely get the S2, because you lower the stance and it makes a big difference on winning the drag race against any other Porsches. Obviously, if the Calico's up against you, you are not going to beat that. But I think performance-wise, there's not a lot in both of these cars. I think whichever one is cheapest for you, go for. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention is customization. You do have slightly better customization with the S2. However, I would say that I found the customization options weren't brilliant, because I mean, yeah, they're good, they are there and they are an option if you like them. But what I found was that they were taking things away from the Porsche 911 look, and I wanted a clean kind of Porsche look, or a race Porsche look, which these extra customizations just weren't adding to. They were just got a bit stupid, to be quite honest. And I prefer what's on offer with the Growler, which is also on offer with the S2. So yeah, looks-wise, maybe another reason. But you need to look at my video on the customizations to see if that makes a difference for you. It's really all about what you like. Okay, so if you found that useful at this point, then you've got a like if you've watched this far, and do look at my other content. YouTube algorithm may suggest it to you anyway, but it would help if you subscribed and give me some feedback as well. So drop a comment on your thoughts on all my videos, but especially on these. I'd be quite interested. I'm a bit of a Porsche fan, you may not know that, so I'd like to know which you think is the best and why, especially when it comes to race performance, how you found it in any of the race series, because that would be really helpful to have your thoughts, your input into it. And everyone else, just check who watches it, check the comments. But I've talked enough. That's enough waffle from me. Thank you very much for watching thus far, But overall, have a great day, and I hope you enjoy one of these cars in your future racing, driving, swanking, GTA traditions. Have a great day, everyone. Oh, I should mention for engine noise fanatics that the Growler doesn't really growl as much as the S2. Also, in UK slang, Growler refers to vagina, which is quite a childish joke from Rockstar there, isn't it? Not enjoyable and a bit sexist. Sort it out, Rockstar.